wallet-based whitelist mint using Candy Machine V3. Hey everyone, this is Keystrokes. I'm a senior software engineer who likes to make videos on anything and everything related to computer science. And today we'll take a look at Candy Machine V3 and how we can launch a new Solana NFT collection with wallet-based whitelist. So let's see everything that we'll cover today. So as the title says, we'll launch a new Candy Machine with wallet-based whitelist minting, where only a set of wallets will be allowed to mint. There are other different ways to do whitelist minting, like based on a whitelist token or even NFT based, and we'll cover those in future videos. And our focus today will be wallet-based whitelisting, which honestly I think is much simpler, because then you don't have to airdrop tokens, it doesn't cost you anything, and it has its own pros. And with pros, of course, there are some cons as well. This uses Merkle tree, and when I started to explore this, I had no ideas what this was. But the best part is, you don't need to know anything about this. And I've already done all the heavy lifting for you, so you can simply follow this video and get going with wallet-based whitelisting. We will also create different candy card groups that will allow us to have minting for, let's say, OGs, then whitelist minting, and then public minting. And each group will have its own set of wallets whitelisted. And as promised in the previous Candy Machine V3 video, we'll also explore some more candy cards, specifically how Sol payment works, how bot taxes can be configured, then of course the allowList, which is the main topic of this video, then defining some mint limits, start date and end date. And there are many more candy cards. You just need to let me know if you want me to cover them as well in a future video. So please let me know your interest in the comments. So let's look at the groups that we'll be creating today. We will have 3 sets of users. The first one will be OG, and they go first in the minting process. They will be allowed to mint 2 NFTs, and the price for them will be set as 0.1 Sol. After that, we'll let whitelist users mint next. They will have a mint limit of 1, and their price will be 0.2 Sol. And after OGs and whitelist are done, the minting will be open to public, and they will go last. They will be allowed to mint 1 NFT per wallet as well, and their minting price will be 0.3 Sol. And you can also take a look at the bot tax, which keeps going up from OG, whitelist to public. For OG and whitelist, we'll have 2 wallets each, and for public, it will be open to anyone to mint. So let's see what has our journey been so far. In the last video, I gave you an introduction to Candy Machine V3, then we launched our own NFT collection using this Candy Machine V3, and then we minted some NFTs. At that time, there was no Candy Machine UI ready by Metaplex, so we used a Candy Machine UI that I created. And in this video, we'll do way more. Our main focus is going to be wallet-based whitelist minting, which will be using the allowList candy card. So let me give you a very brief summary of this allowList candy card. Don't worry about the scary image that you see on your screen. This is just a very basic explanation so that you know what's going on behind the scenes. And yeah, we won't implement any of this. So what you see in front of you right now is called a Merkle tree. And what we're interested to get is the Merkle root. So here on the bottom, we have addresses of 4 different wallets. Now a hash is created of these wallets. Now there are different ways to create this hash, and Metaplex has its own way of creating the hash, but we don't have to worry about it. Now once we have these 4 hashes, we start to take them in pairs. So we take hash 1 and hash 2, and then we hash them again together and we get another hash. Similarly, we hash 3 and hash 4, and we hash them together to get hash 6 here. Now we have 2 more hashes, and we take these 2 as well, and then we hash again and we get hash 7. So we started with 4 different wallets, we hashed them, and we kept hashing until we have a single hash remaining. And that's what's called Merkle root. Now you must be wondering, once we have this Merkle root, how does that help us? That's where the Merkle proof comes into play. Again, don't worry about the implementation, we don't have to do any of this. Metaplex has taken care of most of this, and I've tried my best to fill the gaps. Let's say if we had to determine if this wallet was whitelisted, then we need some way to use this wallet and recompute all the way to the top to the Merkle root, and that will confirm us that this wallet was indeed part of the list of wallets that were whitelisted. So to compute this Merkle root again using this wallet, we basically need its sibling, and then we keep doing it for its parents. So in this case, we start with a hash, we take this wallet's sibling, which is hash 4, and then we take its parent's sibling, which is hash 5. So to determine if this is part of the whitelist, we just need hash 4 and hash 5, which can be used to recompute hash 7. And if hash 7 equals the Merkle root that we provided to Candy Machine, then that means the user is whitelisted. If this doesn't make sense to you, then please don't worry, we won't be implementing any of this. But just remember one thing, the order of the wallets, they matter. So try not to mix them up. So in summary, to create a Candy Machine, you will need the list of whitelisted wallets, and they should be divided into different groups that you want. And then we will need the Merkle root. Now Metaplex provides some libraries on how to create the Merkle root. I've created a UI tool for this, and the link for it is in the description. And we will be using that tool in the video. After creating the Candy Machine, we need to mint. And for minting, we will need Merkle proof. Now for this, we'll use Metaplex completely. And for this step, we will again need the list of whitelisted wallet address along with the groups. This will be used on the Metaplex UI, but Metaplex UI did not support whitelisting. So I have improved the existing Metaplex UI to support whitelisting, and the link for that is in the description. And we will be using this UI in this video as well. And you must be wondering, if you're giving whitelisted wallet addresses for minting as well, then what's the point of Merkle root? Well, this whitelisted wallet addresses while minting is on the front end, and anybody can spoof that and go around that check. So we need something on the back end, which is the Solana contract in this case, for whitelisting. Then you must be asking, why can't we put all the wallet addresses in the contract itself? And the reason for that is the number of addresses could be huge. Let's say if you have 1,000 wallet addresses, and if you'd like to put them in the contract, then the contract will just become too large. Instead, we calculate Merkle root from the list of wallets and only deploy that to the contract. And then when we mint, we only provide the essential wallets that are required to recompute this Merkle root. And that significantly reduces the requests that are sent to the server. If you are technical and you know binary trees, then the number of wallets we need to recalculate Merkle root is equal to the height of the tree. And for non-technical audiences, I have a whole video on how binary tree works, so please check it out if that piques your interest. Okay, so let's get hands-on. We'll start by creating a very simple Candy Machine. I've covered this thoroughly in a previous video, so please watch that if any of the steps don't make sense to you. But it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so here I have the IDE, and I've created a new file, commands.sh, where I will be recording all the commands that I run. And the first thing that we should make sure is that we have the Solana tool suite installed. Then please look at my previous videos. We have done this several times in the past. So the first command we'll run is Solana version. Let's run this here, and it gives us the Solana CLI version I have. It might be an outdated version, but I'm not too worried. Next, we'll run Solana keygen version. So running this, we again get the right version here. And this confirms that we have the Solana tool suite installed. Next, let's download Sugar for Candy Machine V3. So going to the documentation, you can look at how to create Candy Machine V3 part 1 using Sugar. And I'll also put a link in the description for the exact download link. But if you go to the install Sugar section, you can find the GitHub releases page. And in here, we need to find something that says Candy Machine V3. So we'll download this. I'm on macOS Intel, so I'll download this and be right back. Okay, so I have it right here, and I'll rename this to something shorter. Let's call it Sugar CM3. Next, we'll give it executable permissions, and for that we'll run the command chmod 755. So let's run this. Next, we'll check the version of it so that we can make sure it's an executable. So running this command, we can see it says Sugar CLI 2 beta 1, and placing this command here. So this confirms that we have set up Sugar and we can run it. On Windows, these commands might differ, or you might not need this at all. So please try to run this command first, and if this works, you don't need to do this part at all. Next, let's make a note of our current directory. For that, we'll run the command pwd. So running this here, we see this is our whole path. So I'll just make a note of it right here. And I forgot to mention, I'm running all of this on macOS. On Windows, you might be able to use PowerShell or any Unix-like shell. Otherwise, please find the equivalent command that we run here. Now, the next thing that we'll do is to set up our wallets. The first wallet that we'll set up is the owner wallet. And for that, we'll run this command. So copying this and running it in a terminal. You can skip the passphrase. And this is our public key. And you can see the out file was our current directory. And then this file, which just got created right here. Next, we'll do the same for creator. And we'll run this command. So copying this and running, skipping the passphrase. And this is our public key. So putting this right here. And we can see a file got created as well. Next, we'll run commands to set up our Solana CLI and configure it to use DevNet and this owner wallet. Please make sure you run everything on DevNet initially, unless you know what you're doing before going to mainnet. So the first command we'll run is to set the key pair to use the owner wallet that we created. So running this command. Next, we'll run the command to set a URL to DevNet. I'm using Metaplex URL here, but if you have your own RPC, feel free to use it. After all of this is set, you can use this command to get all the settings. So running this here, we see we have the config URL, This is where everything gets saved. Then we have the RPC URL that we set. Then we have the key pair path. Next, let's fund our wallets. So to fund our wallet, we will use the Solana CLI. If the Solana CLI doesn't work, then we'll use Sol Faucet. But let's give it a shot using the Solana CLI. So the command we'll run is Solana airdrop, and then we give it the wallet address and then a URL. So the first wallet is the owner wallet. So pasting it here, and we'll do the same for the creator wallet. So replacing this with the creator wallet. Now let's run these two commands. And we can see that I face the error that the limit is reached. It happens sometimes, and that's why we have Sol Faucet that we can use. But I'll give it a few more shots to see if it succeeds. And yes, it actually succeeded on the next try. Let's do the same for the creator wallet and running this command, and it was successful too. So sometimes the airdrops just get rate limited. Luckily, it worked for us on the second try. If you would like to check the balance of these wallets, you can run Solana balance with the wallet address, and then it will give you the balance of this wallet. So let's run this for both the wallets. So running it for the owner wallet, we see it has 1 Sol. Let's run it for the creator wallet, and we see it has 1 Sol as well. Next, we will download a sample collection that's provided by Metaplex, and we can find it in the documentation again. So going back to this documentation where we got the link to Sugar, we scroll down, you can see a section called Set Up Your Project. And in here, they provide a link to download the example assets. I'll put this link in the description as well, so you can find it in the description or on this page. So let me download this and I'll be right back. Okay, so our assets are downloaded right here, and we will unzip it. In my OS, I can run unzip and then the name of the zip file, and that just unzips it right here. And we can see it created assets as the unzipped folder. It also created Mac OS X that we don't need, so I'll delete it from here. Now the next step is to create our Candy Machine config. And for that, we'll run this command. So let's run this in our terminal, and let's go through these steps. So when we run this command, it detects that there are 10 file pairs in the assets folder, and that's what we'll use. So I'll answer yes to this. And then it finds some more data from the config files in the asset folder. And if you need more details about this, please check out my previous video where we create a new Candy Machine from scratch. So in this case, I'll simply say yes. The seller fee basis point is how many royalty we want to charge. For 5%, it'll be 500. So I'll put 500 here. Do you want sequential mint index? They recommend no. I'll go with their recommendation. We have one creator wallet. Let's copy the address of it and put it right here. The total share should add up to 100, but we have only one creator wallet. So 100% going to this creator. We don't want any settings, and we'll use bundler for upload. And we want our NFTs to be mutable. That's what they recommend. So choosing yes. This creates our config file right here. Next step is to upload all the assets. For that, we'll run this command. So copying this and running it right here. Next, we'll deploy our Candy Machine. For that, we'll run this command, sugar cm3 deploy. So running that command now. Let's make a note of this Candy Machine ID, and we'll paste it right here. The final step is to verify that everything looks good. So we'll run this command for it. So executing this, and everything seems good. Okay, so now we have created our very basic Candy Machine right here. Okay, so now that we have our simple Candy Machine created, it's time to calculate the Merkle roots. We will calculate roots for OG wallets and the whitelist wallets. So let's calculate our Merkle roots. We will need Merkle roots for OG and whitelist. We do not need one for public because we don't have any wallet restrictions in there. Going back to our browser, here I have Phantom Wallet set up with a few accounts. I have OG Wallet 1, 2, Whitelist Wallet 1, 2, and a public wallet. So let me copy these one by one. So copying OG Wallet 1, pasting it here, OG Wallet 2, pasting it here. Then we have Whitelist Wallet 1, pasting it here, and then we'll have Whitelist Wallet 2 and pasting it right here. Now I'll copy all the OG wallets that we have, and I've created this tool which we can use to calculate the Merkle root. On here, you can paste one wallet per line. So I'll remove everything else. And then when we run calculate Merkle root, it gives us this value. So let's copy this and put this in our notes. Let's do the same for the whitelist wallets. Going back to the tool, pasting it here, cleaning it up, and calculating the Merkle root again. So copying this and making a note of this. That's all that was needed to calculate the Merkle roots. I hope my tool makes this easy for you as well. Before we continue, I have a very small request. Creating these videos and tools and the Candy Machine UI, and I will really appreciate any kinds of support. I really love the developer community, and that's why I've kept all the tools and the Candy Machine UIs that I create free. But even smallest of the support goes a long way. Different ways you can support me is to buy me a coffee. I've put the link in the description. I also have a Patreon. If my content helps you, I will really appreciate a Patreon pledge, and that will keep me going. And at the very least, I'll appreciate a subscribe and a like on this video. And trust me, your support will be very motivating to me. Also, if there's something specific that you'd like to see, then please post them in comments. Well, after that emotional message, let's get on to the next step. Now we will add all the candy cards. Here's a review again of all the groups that we'll have and all the settings that will go with these candy cards. Now, the next step is to open our config file and to add candy cards to it. By default, in the end, it adds this guards key with null as the value. So we'll expand this, make it an object. This requires a mandatory key called default, which will set to empty. It's just needed as one of the required parameters. And in our previous video, we actually used some default guards. So if you're interested to see how this works, please check out that video. Now to create our candy card groups, we will add a new key here. It will be called groups, and this will be an array. Now in here, we'll create a new object and we'll give it a label. Now this is the label of the group that we are creating. So the first group we'll have is OG, and then we'll define all the guards that we're interested for this group, putting guards in quotes here and saving this file. Let me paste all the guards that we'll be using for this OG group. So let's start from the top and see all the guards that I just put in here. The first guard is the SOL payment. That is, how much should we charge OGs for this NFT? And we'll be charging 0.1 SOL to the OGs. Now this destination, this is just the wallet where all the funds from the minting go. In this case, this is the owner wallet. You can put whatever wallet you want in here. Then we have a start date here. You can put whatever values you want here. We'll come back to this. And similarly, we have an end date. I'm going to put this year as 2024, just so that we have minting going forever, just for demonstration. Then we have bot access defined as 0.01, and we should set last instruction as true, as it's recommended by Metaplex. Next, we have mint limit. We define that OGs can mint 2 NFTs, and each mint limit has a unique ID. So here we just put ID as 1. And then the main topic we have been discussing, the allowList. This requires the Merkle root that we calculated for our OGs. So let's go back to our notes and copy that. For OG, this was our Merkle root, going back to config and pasting it right here. So this defines all the guards that we have for the OG. Let me copy this whole thing and paste it again. And this time we will define a group called Whitelist as WL. And just a small note, this label is restricted to 6 characters, I think. So please don't try to have long names, otherwise it will not succeed. Now the SOL payment for Whitelist will be 0.2 SOL. We'll come back to the start date. The bot tax will be 0.02 and the mint limit will be 1 for them. And we define a new ID here for them as 2. And let's get the Merkle root for our whitelist users, which is right here. So going back and pasting it and saving this. Okay, so next let's add a new group for public minters. And before I do that, let me just collapse this as it's getting slightly long. This was our group 1, this was group 2. So copying this group and pasting it here. Let's name this group as public. The SOL payment will be 0.3 for them. We'll come back to the start date. The bot tax will be 0.03. The mint limit will be 1, but we'll bump the ID by 1 as well. Then there will be no allowList here because everybody is allowed to mint when public minting goes live. So let's go back and fix these dates. So going to your browser and figuring out the time in UTC. I will use this website, utctime.net, and here we can see what's the time right now at UTC. And you can use any time zone, but I find UTC to be simpler to work with. So it's 9:15 right now and it's 13th Feb. So going back, here we can change this to 13th and it was 9 AM. Let's make this as 12 PM and going back up. Let's look at the whitelist users. They can start minting at, let's say, 11 AM, and then our OGs, they get to mint at 9. Okay, so now all of our guards are added to our config file. Now, the next step is to actually run this command and add the candy guards to our candy machine itself. So copying this command and running it here, it was successful. And now we have candy guards attached to our candy machine. We can run this command to show the candy guards that are attached to our candy machine. And we can see here, we have multiple groups defined here. We have this public group with these settings. Then we have a whitelist group with these settings. And then we have an OG group with these settings. Also, if you need to ever update your candy guards, you can run this command, sugarcm3 guard update, and this will just update the candy guards. Let me update this comment as well. Okay, so now that our candy machine is loaded with the candy guards, it's time to set up our UI. Okay, so now our candy machine is ready. The next step is about the candy machine UI. So official Candy Machine UI is being developed. When I made the last video, it wasn't available, but recently I noticed that they have a UI example for Candy Machine V3. They support a lot of candy cards, but they still do not support the allowList candy card. So I went ahead and improved their Candy Machine UI and created Keystrokes Candy Machine UI V1. It's built on top of what exists today officially, but it's a very naive implementation. I added support for wallet-based whitelisting. I also added a lot of informational messages so that a user knows why they are not able to mint. But if you plan to use it for production, then I will strongly advise you to wait until Metaplex officially releases a Candy Machine UI for V3. Okay, so let's set up my Candy Machine UI. The download link is in the description. Okay, so here I have the Candy Machine UI downloaded, and I'll unzip it in the same folder. So I'll run unzip Keystrokes Candy Machine UI, and it creates this nice folder. I'll delete this Mac OS X that got created when I extracted the Candy Machine. So let's go into this folder and pasting this command as well. And the first step we'll be doing is to copy our environmental file from the example environmental file. So running this command in here, we see a new file.env got created. Let's open this, and this requires our Candy Machine ID in here. So going back to our commands and looking at our notes up here where we have the Candy Machine ID recorded right here. So copying that and going back to our env file and pasting it. Next, we'll install some dependencies. So for that, we can run npm install. So running this here, this might take some time. Okay, so now our Candy Machine UI is set up. Next, we'll run this command to start our Candy Machine UI. So running this command, we can see that it started on localhost right here. So let's try to access this URL in our browser. Going back to our browser and opening this link, our wallet wants to connect to this page. We'll let it connect. And here we can see our wallet is connected. Our network is set to DevNet, and that's what we'll be using. And we can see all of our minting groups here. We define OG, whitelist, and public. And our current wallet is set to OG, so it makes sense for us to choose OG, but we can switch between these. And then nothing has been minted yet. Now, before we go into minting, we need to update our Candy Machine UI so that it knows about these whitelisted wallets. So going back to our IDE, if we look at the Candy Machine UI folder, in here if we go to pages and we go into mint NFTs, we can see this allowList variable here that needs updating, and it requires all the wallets that we need. So we created OG and whitelist as the two groups that require wallets as whitelisting. So we need to provide these wallets here. If you create any more groups, you can just copy this and keep creating as many groups that you have, and make sure you give it the same group name that you gave in the config file right here as the label. So going back to the mint NFT file, here for OG, we had two wallets. Let's bring it here. So scrolling up, we can see the two wallets right here. So we copy this and paste it right in here, and we'll remove any extra characters and put quotes around it. And we'll do the same for the second one. So put quotes around it and a comma. We will do the same for whitelist. So going back, copying these whitelist wallets and pasting it right here, putting quotes around it and a comma, and putting quotes around it and a comma. So you need to put all the wallets that you have if you're doing wallet-based whitelist. Now that our Candy Machine UI is set, it's time to mint. We will switch between different accounts of OG and whitelist and public and see how the Candy Machine UI reacts. Now going back to our browser, let's refresh this, and we are already connected as our OG wallet, and let's try to mint this now. So clicking on mint NFT, because this is a whitelisted wallet, it sends one transaction to verify that you are really whitelisted. So approving that, and that our whitelist was now approved. We are charged 0.1 Sol with some gas fee to mint our NFT. So approving this as well. And we can see we got our NFT. Now let's see what happens if we change our minting group to whitelist. We are still OG and we switch to whitelist. And because whitelist minting is not live yet, it says minting is not live, and hence you cannot start to mint. And now let's update our Candy Machine so that minting becomes live for whitelist users, and let's see what happens if the whitelist user try to mint as an OG user. So let's go back to our IDE and look at our Candy Guard where we define the whitelist user. In here, let's set the start date to, let's say, 9 AM. Now we can shut this and we can go to our commands and run the command sugar guard update, and that will update our Candy Machine to allow whitelist users to mint. So going one directory up where our config file exists and pasting this command. So now our guard is updated. So let's go back into our UI and run the server again. So running npm run dev, this started our Candy Machine UI again. So going back to our browser and refreshing this, And now let's switch our wallet to a whitelist user. Let's say whitelist wallet 1. So let's connect our wallet to this UI. Okay, hit connect. And now this wallet should be minting as whitelist. But what happens if they try to mint as OG? Let's try it. So it says minting in progress. It sends this transaction to verify the whitelist. And this failed. It says address is not on the allow list, which makes sense as this wallet is not part of the allow list for OG. Now let's go back to the whitelist minting group and try to mint as a whitelist group. Clicking on minting, it checks again for the whitelist, and whitelist went through, it seems. Then we are being charged 0.2 SOL because we are a whitelist user, and that's how much we charged them, and clicking approve. Now our minting was successful and we got 8 as the NFT. And now we see we cannot mint anymore because our limit has been reached, as we were allowed to mint only 1 NFT as a whitelist user. Next, let's try to update this public guard and enable minting for them. So let's update the start time to be something that has passed. So putting this as 9 and updating our candy guard again. So shutting our server, going up one directory, running the candy guard update command, and restarting our server. Executing npm run dev, and our server is back up and ready. So going back to our browser and refreshing this. Now let's switch to another wallet, let's say a public wallet that I've created here, and reconnect our UI. So approving the connection. And again, if we try to mint as OG minting group, then this should not work. If we try to approve, it should throw an error saying that the address is not on the allowed list. If we do the same with whitelist, we'll face the same error, but we know that public should work because there is no wallet whitelist for public minting group. So trying to mint here, we can see we are being charged 0.3 SOL plus some gas. So approving this, and we have our NFT minted. So in summary, you connect your wallet, you choose the minting group you're part of, and you simply mint. Metaplex has not released this feature in their UI yet, so this is the best way I could come up with it. This allows the same wallet to mint in multiple groups like in OG, as well as whitelist and even public. But please feel free to modify this UI however it suits your needs. Well, that's all I had for this video. I hope this was helpful, and now you can launch your NFT collection with wallet-based whitelist. Again, a word of caution, if you plan to use this for production, I will advise you to wait until Metaplex releases their official Candy Machine UI for Candy Machine V3, and I'll be keeping a close eye out on it as well. Please don't forget to like this video and to subscribe to my channel and follow me on Twitter. And as I said before, any support is really appreciated, and it really helps me to stay motivated to create this content. So please feel free to buy me a coffee or even pledge on Patreon. I'm working on more videos, specifically on how to whitelist using SPL token, that is token-based whitelist, and also how to whitelist users who own specific NFTs. And if you have any requests, then please let me know in the comments. Until then, you might like this video on the screen. I'll see you next time.